Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 288. My name is John Morgan, and Oscar Willis from the World Award-nominated The Mac Life is with me.
Do you think once October ends, which is when they're meant to give out the award, we have to assume I didn't win?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to assume anything, sir. I mean, it's such a fantastic. The Mac Life is incredible. So no, and then you know what? You're still World Award nominated.
That's
I
true.
mean, even if you don't collect it, the nomination never goes away.
That's the next tattoo.
The nomination never goes away?
Just across the chest. Nominated 2020.
We are here on Fight Island, as you may know by now. We're settling in for week 2 of 5, and of course, more specifically than Fight Island. If you've listened to the MMA Roadshow before, as we've come to you live from Abu Dhabi, you know where we're at. We're at Stills. We're at the office right here. The table is set. The frosty beverages have been served. It is a wonderful Thursday afternoon. By the way, it's cooling down a little bit, man.
It is, man.
You got out and did a little bike ride this morning. It's a nice Thursday.
It's I can tell you what, man. I don't know if when we came here for Khabib versus Poirier, we were in the midst of a heat wave or something like that.
Yeah, because it was right about this time.
It definitely was, and the it's been kind of night and day with the weather. You know, it's really not that humid. There's a nice little breeze out there today. You know,
It's pleasant.
Makes you think of times gone past, John. Makes you think of the good old days. You know, that soft summer breeze. But no, it's really nice, and yeah, I can't actually complain. So nice is the weather. I even tried to get a tan. I've actually purposely walked out of the room and thought, I'm going to tan today.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
I did not. But the effort was there.
I'm going to advise against that, sir.
Yeah, I forgot my sunscreen as well. I forgot my sunscreen, and then everything in this country is $3,000. So I bought sunscreen for $80 dirham, which is like $20. Lost it that day. So I'm back where I started.
Jesus. I will say, as far as enjoying, like I said, the weather's been nice. It's not quite as crazy as it was last time. I think it was just kind of hectic because everybody was learning the system and figuring it all out.
Including the people here.
That's true. And now I feel like everybody's just kind of in their routine, so I feel like it's a lot less hectic. And I will say this, maybe 2 because, well, first of all, let's say week 2 last time we were starting 2 events, right? So that's a part of it. We don't have that. But I will say this, I feel like the jet lag is gone. I don't have that. I will say this, though. I never really figured out the sleep last time.
Yeah.
And I still haven't figured out the sleep this time. I'm basically just grabbing little bits and pieces when I can.
Yeah, for me, I just sleep when I feel like sleeping, basically. I think if that's your mindset and attitude, you can roll with it. And I think this time, because the fight night is on there's only Saturday fight nights. It's not like last time where you kind of fucked from fight night, then straight into media day, and it just kind of were left over tired.
It's been kind of pleasant.
Yeah, a couple of days.
Kind of pleasant. So I want to tell you, before we get into the fights, and we'll definitely get into the fights, I'll say this. The one thing I like about working in this part of the world, especially, like I said, this is a lot more slow paced than last time. So I think we're really I feel like we're basically living here this time.
Yes.
Last time, week 2 was survival skills. I like here's the pro of working on this side of the world. When you wake up, everyone in North America is asleep, basically.
Yeah.
So you start doing work. You're putting. There's no emails coming in. The Slack isn't going off. There's no Skype budging. There's no. You know what I mean? You just get some peace and quiet, and it's really, really nice. The flip side is that when you're ready to go to bed and you're starting to lay down and try to grab you a little bit of sleep, ding, ding, ding.
And it certainly has felt like that to the extreme this week, John.
Oh, geez, I don't know what could be happening. It just must be a busy week over there behind the scenes.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. UFC 253, of course, was the big one that started off this 5-week run. And we talked about that, of course, on the and-a-half episode over at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. So if you want to get the in-depth discussion on what we thought immediately after the fight, please make sure you go over there and check that out. But what I wanted to do was just kind of revisit it briefly, because those top 2 fights especially, the 2 title fights, I feel like there was a lot of trying to understand exactly what we'd witnessed, exactly what was going on, and exactly what the implications are. And I want to just kind of revisit briefly and see if anything has changed in your takeaway from those top 2 fights, because I do feel like in the beginning, not that everybody was just trying to just say Costa had a terrible night, terrible game plan, terrible whatever, But I do feel like, especially, in talking to everybody, because, we still got lots of people here on Fight Island. We're talking to fighters. We're talking to other people and finding out what everybody thinks. I do think that maybe as we've had a little bit more time to go revisit the fight, I still think Costa kind of laid a little bit of an egg, but I don't think you can put it entirely on his shoulders, man. When you really go back and watch the subtleties of what Adesanya was doing in there, I think you really have to have some appreciation for what he was doing.
And that's exactly how I feel as well. I rewatched the fight, and whereas I think immediately post-fight we sort of thought Costa is going to wake up and regret that tomorrow. He didn't try and rush in. I think if you go back and rewatch it, he did. Like, he was trying to get there, but if you go back and just watch Adesanya, every single movement of the shoulder, Costa reacted. So as soon as and because Izzy was so fast, as soon as Costa went to throw a punch, Izzy would faint and he'd just stop immediately.
Right.
Do I think that negates the fault he has for kicking instead of punching at the end of the cage?
I was going to say, that's the moments you can't take away. The moments where he had actually worked himself into position. He got it, and we mentioned it on the and a half as well, but I'm sticking by that. The moment that he got himself in a position where he's like, okay, I've cut off the cage, I have him stuck, and then you lead with a kick, and that allowed Adesanya out to the side very easily both times he had him there. Those were still very much failures on Costa's part.
Yeah, very much failures, and in hindsight, inexcusable failures.
Yes.
Adesanya's ability as a kickboxer is just ridiculous to even try to do that. So I think if I was Costa, I'd be disappointed about that. Now, we've had a few days to ruminate and stuff like that, so I will say both sides have been interesting post-fight, right? So Costa and his team have came out and said something happened before the fight. That's a wide net. I mean, you know, maybe his cock fell off. We don't know. Something happened behind the scenes.
I think that's what they're alluding to.
But their net was wide enough that we could, But
I mean, they didn't rule it out.
They didn't rule it out. But my sort of point is, like, when you come up with, we don't want to make excuse, but something happened. Either make the excuse or don't.
So all right. So, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I will say this because some of what we're, I think, basing our feedback on as well is we had a chance to sit down with the analysts for this week's fight, and I'm teasing that because you don't even know this, but I'm gonna use some of the audio we got from them later on. But we had a chance to sit down. We talked to Paul Felder, we talked to Dan Hardy, we talked to Angela Hill, we talked to Brendan Fitzgerald, and we talked to Karen Bryant. Karen Bryant was the only one that came out and said, "Look, Captain Eric and the team over there, they told me that, like, he wasn't sleeping well all week." And, you and I have alluded to that multiple times, man. Fatigue is a problem. Who was the one that we said was really tired? Dominic Reyes, clearly lost. Now we're hearing that, now, do you think it's something that simple, that something happened was that he wasn't sleeping at all on fight week?
I mean, you hear whispers on this island, John, and I did hear about the sleep thing. I heard he got to the arena a lot later than he was meant to get there.
Through transportation issues or some of his own?
I believe not leaving the room sort of issues. And I want to very much press, this is all speculation, but
these are island whispers.
I didn't see those cut marks on his calf at the weigh-ins.
Right.
So I'm sort of like, well,
it's a good point.
You don't know. Now listen, he still managed to kick. You don't really do that if your calf is fucked up or something like that. So immediate service here still.
I love it.
But whenever I find it annoying because when teams and camps say, "Oh, something happened," you're leaving it open to speculation. If something happened, just come out and say it.
I agree. It's not an excuse. Just say what happened.
It's a reason. It's not an excuse. It's a reason. But the way they go, "Oh, something happened," and then Costa's sort of angle of like, well, he, butt fucked me, so that's why I deserve an immediate rematch. I don't know if Dana's going to go for that one.
Yeah, that's not the selling point.
Although I would like to see the promos of it, the video.
That's not the selling point there.
So I just think the coming out of Costa's camp has been a little bit disappointing, a little bit of more sort of stereotypical saltiness you get from some guys who came runner-up, shall we say. And then from Adesanya, it's a complete 180, but the same thing. He's like so salty from the Romero reaction and Paulo Costa's words that he's still going, and now we're nearly a week past it, and he's still going.
All right, so let's talk about Adesanya. I mean, let's just say the accusations of Gyno, basically. I mean, they ran rampant. There were suggestions on social media on Fight Night. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't know this was a thing leading into it. I feel kind of bad now. I guess I wasn't aware that people were as into it. I saw in post-fight that people were very much into it, that this was an accusation. I just want to throw it out there. I get it. People are speculating. People see whatever. And I look, when you go back and watch the tape, I see, okay, there is some kind of mass on his right pectoral that doesn't look natural there. But I will say, man, the people that were just wholeheartedly convinced, that is clear, unmistakable evidence of PED use. From my point of view, and I'll let you weigh in and give your thoughts. Now, granted, I'm probably a little bit more of, coming from the responsible journalist camp. I know that's not always necessarily your point of view. I don't think slinging accusations like that is okay. Okay, unless you have some. I understand that seems to be some circumstantial physical evidence, visual evidence. But to me, the number of people that I saw that were just like, it's clear, it's obvious to me. I think that's crap. I think there's a number of things, and none of us are that level of medical, experts. At least I wouldn't expect to be. But then here, that's my official journalist. Now let me take my official journalist hat off and set it over to the side right here.
He is physically miming taking your hat off.
I am taking my physical journalist hat off, and I'm setting it over to the side. The eyeball test. I'm as stupid as that is. He just doesn't look like a steroid cheater to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What's your tip? Because again, I spoke to the boys on Submission Radio the other day. They brought it up, and I said basically the same thing. I was like, look, I think it's a little irresponsible to sling accusations as if they're fact. I do think that it needs to be addressed. Now, I think when we talked, this was like Sunday or early Monday our time. He since, I think, did an interview with Ariel Helwani where he was asked about it. Vehemently denied anything happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just wanted to get your take because I'll be honest, I didn't realize what a big thing this was. And then I saw a post-fight, and I shared with you, I just Googled it, and there was, some YouTube video of some whackhead that was talking for, 20 minutes, and I couldn't turn it off. He was just like, let me tell you why this is. It was like Gianni the Greek's, steroid-using cousin. Yeah, no, it was hilarious. And I was just watching it on, and he was convinced. I think it's irresponsible. B, if I'm just casual fan guy, I'm like, dude, that dude doesn't look like he uses steroids.
Yeah, I mean, so I did know about the conversation about going in, and I spent about 3 hours looking at every picture of Israel Adesanya's pec from the last 8 years, I think.
I just assumed you always did that.
I don't want to waste my Sundays.
Exactly,
Gotta do Sunday. But so I knew about it going in, and I was curious, and then when they were in the cage, I thought it was very noticeable, and as did Twitter, evidently. All the other fighters are starting to see it and stuff like that. Maybe this is wishful thinking or something like that, but I did consider that would suggest to me, from what I know about Gyno, that could be a hormone imbalance. But then at the same time, and I understand that everyone's going to be like, oh, top tier athletes, everyone's on steroids and stuff like that. But come on, guys, we either believe in USADA or we don't. I'm going to try. I've seen a lot of guys fall the fuck off since USADA came in. Israel has not. So maybe I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because I like Izzy. But for me, I was like, well, you don't know if there's an injury. If it's a lot of muscle tear in the pec and some fluid came in, that could be it. You don't know. And so I was kind of wanted to withhold judgment and see if he was asked about it. He was. I think was correct to be asked. It was a huge talking point. With Ariel, he said, that he didn't. His girlfriend had told him to get it checked out 8 weeks ago. And he was like, I'll get through the fight and then I'll get it checked out. It hurts a little bit. It's a bit sensitive. But other than that, he was kind of didn't really pay it much thought.
Right.
Okay. And he said he's since had tests on it, and we would perhaps get the results of those. He might tell us, he might not. He was being a bit Israel about that, but he was saying, I've had tests on it, and we'll see. Okay, that's
that seems fair, right? Like a biopsy or something.
That's I think he said he had a blood test on it and a couple of MRIs to see what was in it. I think was what he said.
Interesting.
But okay, that's what I want you to say.
That's it.
It's a really weird conversation to talk about because I feel like you can't really talk about it without sort of subliminally suggesting something.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you're right in saying you shouldn't throw accusations. And another reason why I say that as well, there are some gyms in this sport that have a reputation. There are some gyms in this sport where people go to and they suddenly look incredibly great physically and everything else after they've been there a little while.
Right.
And there are some gyms just have an ethos about them, and some gyms just have an attitude about them. I really struggle to believe that City Kickboxing and particularly Eugene Barryman would have any tolerance for that in his gym.
And there's no way that stuff happens and they don't know about it.
For sure. What, you fucking don't notice your team pet, he's putting a lot of mass. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
All of a sudden it's just whoa, man.
Yeah, and
we've been working with this guy for years, and the last 6 weeks, man, he's just really putting it on.
Yeah, and I just don't buy Eugene ever accepting that, and I think also as well, so some people have a little said, oh well, it only just came on now and stuff like that. It's well, it seems odd to me that you would choose to double down on your juice regime as you're publicly accusing a dude of juicing.
Right. Wouldn't you just not say a word?
It seems to me
Just wouldn't say a word.
I just think, to me, like it's just a bit strange, and it's an unfortunate thing. I did like Israel's reaction of, look, if I looked that good, I'd have to say some shit too. So I like that. I would like him to go public with the results, though.
I agree. I do agree with that. That's fair. That's 100% fair. All right, I want to say one thing, because I think the co-main event, we kind of know what happened. There's not a lot's opinion is going to change in what happened. I mean, Dominic Reyes admitted he came out a little bit flat. Jan Blachowicz took advantage of the opportunity. He looked amazing. Here's what I want to ask, but basically what I want to do is I want to roll it forward to John Jones at this point. But before I do that, because I want to say one other thing about UFC 253, Brandon Royval is amazing. I love this kid. And I just saw, like, this morning, like, he posted a video of him and Big Nog, and he's just, like, totally, like, dorking out at, like, hanging out with Big Nog. I love that so much. Like, this almost, like, blissful innocence of some kid that's, like, I can't even believe I'm here right now. And he acted that way the whole time, and he's fun as hell to watch. I mean, incredible fight. And then he's sitting there. I mean, he was dorking out at the press conference. He's like, I can't believe I'm talking to you guys. You're like, dude, what's going on? It was amazing. So to see, like, that true earnest, like, passion for hanging out with a legend like Big Nog, pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I love that stuff. And I think when we spoke to Carlos Condit yesterday at the media day, he was saying, fans respecting me is great, but he was like, hearing young fighters respect me is pretty cool.
I thought that was awesome, dude. You know what's funny? I was thinking about that earlier. I kind of wanted to cut that for, like, social media or something, where it's like, I hope fans would hear that the right way. Like, I could see them going, oh, so he doesn't care if we like him? But no. It's so cool to know that, yes, that the fans are fans of you, but to know that your peers have that respect for you, man.
I don't think that's unreasonable at all. I think, like, I not that I get much interaction from fans, but sometimes it's very, very nice to hear, like, people, I like your questions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you hear one of your peers reach out to you and say, hey, you did a great job, that's someone who's allegedly an expert in the same field as you.
Right. Wow! Shots fired!
Listen. There's only 5 nominees, and I'm one of them. No. But it's much nicer to get, so they understand what you're trying to do and stuff like that. There's a little bit of a inside baseball sort of talk. So it's always even, I think, nicer to be respected by those you respect.
I dig it. All right, so
I respect, as I just threw them all under the fucking bus.
I mean, allegedly. No, so I want to spin it forward to John Jones, because obviously John Jones has been a big point of discussion ever since as well. Because, and it's interesting, right? I mean, John Jones is trying to have a stranglehold on every single division out there, right? Like, theoretically,
it was a busy night for him. Saturday was a busy night for John.
Theoretically, he's in the middle of this move to heavyweight, which I think intrigued a lot of us. Okay, cool. Will he fight for the title? Will he fight Francis Ngannou? What will he do? What will? Okay. Then as we all knew he was going to do, immediately he was like, maybe I'll just go get my belt back, Yeah. Said that.
Did we predict that, John?
I believe we may have said it. It's clear that John Jones is going to be talking trash after whoever wins. And then, of course, conversation with Israel Adesanya as well. So, we mentioned speaking to all those analysts, and we kind of asked their opinion on what they thought. And it was kind of funny, because I thought the answer was kind of all across the board, but I guess there's a couple different ways to look at this, right? Like, John Jones, again, I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. To me, greatest of all time. So what is the next right move for him? And I guess it all depends on what position you're looking from, right? Like, what's the best next move for us as fans to be excited about? What's the next move for us as journalists to cover? What's the next best move for him to declare his greatness? I mean, I guess there's a lot of ways you can spin it as to why his next move would be the right move, but I don't know. Is there one fight? Because I guess the fights you would look at is Israel Adesanya, Jan Blachowicz, or the winner of Stipe and Ngannou, because Dana White's made it clear that he's not cutting the line, right? So to me, I guess those are the 3. Or am I missing one? Is there another fight on the table that I'm not thinking about? What if it's you? They've handed it over. They say, Oscar Willis, we know about your award nominations, and man, we just respect your mind so much that we need you to make the next call. I mean, I don't know what's the most intriguing.
Conor McGregor,
well done.
No, I don't know, man. There seems to be, I like to carelessly speculate on this show and just throw out random things that I don't know anything about.
I can see clearly from here he does not have his journalist hat on right now. He does not have it
left at home, mate. But it's fine, because when you're drinking a beer, it doesn't count.
It's off record.
So For me, I think we discussed this. I don't believe Dana White says something unless there's something
That's right.
he's not saying at the
Doesn't
same time.
accidentally leak information out.
And there's been 2 times now, pre Saturday night and in the post-fight press conference, I think, after the question asked by you, where he said, we don't know John's going to heavyweight. John,
Right.
we might be doing something else.
Yeah, that cracked me up when he was like, I don't know. Whatever. I know as much as you do.
Oh, maybe John asked for money and I didn't want to fucking pay the
Yeah.
guy. I don't know. But there's something about that intrigued me, that maybe John going to heavyweight is not a set thing. And so I think, my careless speculation is I think Israel is going to fight for the 205-pound title and then meet John Jones. And I think their thought is if John goes to heavyweight, he will be too big and they'll lose that fight. And I think that based on the numbers that Israel and Paulo just did,
Right.
I don't know about pay-per-view numbers, but every other fucking number,
All the metrics.
I think they probably suspect that actually with the trash talk and lead-up, John versus Israel is a bigger fight than John versus Stipe.
That is really interesting.
I believe it is too.
Yeah, you know what? It definitely, there's no question about it. It definitely is.
Yeah.
It's definitely the bigger fight. And you're right. And again, going back to the Dana White answer, again, you got to read between the lines with this, right? But Dana White, I mean, again, we spend a lot of time around him. And it's very clear. Like, Dana could have easily said, hey, when we're like, hey, what's the update with John Jones? He goes, well, you guys know he's moving to heavyweight. Like,
Yeah.
we haven't put the fight together yet. We'll see. He didn't say that.
Or he could have said, I don't know, I haven't spoken to John. But
Yeah.
he said, well, he might stay at light heavyweight. Like, I don't know.
He's been throwing it out there a little bit. I like that. So is that the route you like? Because I will say, him versus Adesanya, the build-up would be absolutely incredible.
I really, really, and again, a lot of this is based on John's the last 3 performances. I really like that fight. I think the only thing that would be disappointing, and not that I want this guy to win, that guy to win, what would be one of those disappointing moments in MMA, the build-up would be tremendous, and then if John kind of just clinched him for 5 rounds with his size, that would be pretty disappointing to walk away from.
But you know what? And I was just, as you were speaking, I was literally thinking about the idea of how both fights would play out. And I was thinking in my head that, listen, at heavyweight, I can see him fighting very cautious because he knows he's the smaller guy. He knows that he's not the one packing the power. John's got to be careful. But I could see John being more aggressive against Adesanya because he thinks, I'm the guy with the size. Yeah. I'm the guy with the range.
And I mean, including Cormier and Chael, but I mean, for Cormier to say it, they've all said that John's very, very strong at 205. He's a very, very strong man. So yeah, you could be right. I mean, I think there would be something quite sad if we got that fight and then he just muscled Israel to the floor and just beat the shit out of it. They'd be kind of what did we do?
Remember that time we thought that great middleweight against that guy that was in the middle of going to heavyweight would be a great matchup?
Now, I don't know that would happen. I don't know that would happen.
No, but I see what you're saying. It would be an incredibly disappointing result.
But for me, I think there's something about the Israel-John fight. I kind of feel like they're on the cusp of one wrong move and they lose it. I don't know what it is. It just feels like...
Oh, yeah. That's not there forever.
Yeah, it just feels like that's... there's been a lot of super fights that are sort of like... well, it'll always be there.
Like we know Conor Diaz 3 is always going to be there. We know Diaz Masvidal 2 is always going to be there.
But it just feels like a lot of times, even with George and Anderson back in the day, it felt like
there wasn't a rush.
It felt like, well, these tracks are going to get there eventually. We don't need to do it now. I feel like Israel and John...
Tiny window.
It just feels like you got to get it now. And I just think... Because for some reason, I just feel like it could disappear very quickly. And
I get that same feeling.
And there's something about their dynamic I really enjoy. I really enjoy the nerd versus the absolute bro,
Izzy would just absolutely piss off John Jones. The build-up to that, I think he would get under his skin.
But I think he potentially could, but I also think John would probably... There's a reason John went for Israel first, way back when.
Right.
I think John was probably a bit bored of dealing with guys who weren't selling him fights.
Sure.
Remember, he threw out Izzy first. I remember he threw out Israel. I think I'll fight Israel Adesanya one day. And Israel Adesanya went, yeah, that's actually a fight we've been talking about for years. And John went, you fucking what? You can't
no, I was talking about it first, bro.
Yeah, you're like, how dare you ever come at me? It was very weird. So to me, it just seemed like John always wanted a verbal sparring partner. He knows what that does for his bank account, and I think it would be fun. That's what I'd like to see. But first, Israel can't fight for no title. I want to see Israel to fight Yan, potentially win that fight, then fight John.
That's interesting, man. That could be pretty amazing. Do you feel like let's say that is the plan. Let's say that's exactly what the plan is. Are we I don't feel like we're leaving anybody behind at light heavyweight, right? Because at light heavyweight, we knew we kind of had this glut of contenders, what was going to happen. We kind of had this tournament. I mean, sure, Maheta and Glover, they're going to be upset. They're going to say, oh, man, why is this guy jumping the line? Are we leaving anybody behind at middleweight? Are we leaving Jared Cannonier behind at middleweight?
No, because of the time frame. Right, realistically, Cannonier, Izzy loves staying busy, right? So Izzy, if he could fight by December, Cannonier only fights in a couple of weeks.
Right.
You could realistically ask Cannonier to sit until next July. I mean, fighters wait that long all the time for a title shot.
True.
So you could ask him to do that. So I think if they can get Izzy out there in December, if they're any longer than that, they might be leaving someone behind at middleweight.
What if Cannonier starches Robert Whittaker at UFC 254? I mean, some brutal 30-second knockout. Then can Izzy say, I'm going to face Jan right now?
No, then they book him against Darren Till. Israel. I'm joking.
Oh, I was like, what?
No, being sarcastic.
No, you know what you do? You know what you do at that point? What you do at that point? Okay.
Interim.
No, you don't even do that. I think at that point, if Cannonier comes out and just blows the doors off Robert Whittaker, then he has to fight Adesanya, right?
Yeah, I agree.
That's when John fights Jan.
Oh yeah, but I agree. That's possible, but they have to put them on the same card. One.
And then if it falls apart, you get the same.
Well, but I mean, just put them on the same card just to have that the
just
link.
the dynamic, build the dynamic.
But I also think the risk of that is if John stays at 205 and fights Jan, I think that really hurts his stock almost. It's like, you've fucking honey-dicked us about this move to heavyweight for 10 years. You finally got in there, and then you're going to pull out of me and no.
Sir. Sir.
Yeah, no penetration, as Angie Hill said. No, but, then you're going to... It seems like a very sort of weird move.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. I think if Cannonier does touch Whittaker, you got to put that plan on hold. And Israel wants to be the fighting champion, and you do that fight.
Yeah.
I think they go back, if Whittaker won, probably, you
just move on.
Yeah.
It's a contentious, boring split decision, which I don't see how that would happen. But if it was,
as for light heavyweight, all respect to the guys up there, but is there anyone, even with a victory in their next fight, that you could say deserves a title shot more than Adesanya right now? No, Adesanya.
Absolutely not.
That's so. Yeah.
All right.
Interesting times.
Interesting times. All right, let's talk about UFC on ESPN 16. It happens this weekend. Holly Holm versus Irina Aldana in the main event. It is a women's bantamweight matchup with some title implications on the line. Let's do this. Before you and I talk about it, I cut this audio a little bit early because I thought people would like to hear it. As I said, we got a chance, and I had asked the UFC, I'm like, look, while we're here, we want to get as much content as we can. We've got these, analysts that are in town because they have to get here so early. Can we get them a couple days before the fight and just pick their brains a little bit, have a little, just something to kill some time while we're here and get some extra information. So what you're going to hear is Paul Felder, Dan Hardy, and Angela Hill all break down what they think is most important about Holly Holm versus Irina Aldana. Now, remember, of course, they're analysts. They can't give picks, so they're not going to give you picks. But I asked them, rather than picks, tell me about the things that are going to matter the most. And I figure what you might like to do is hear from their expertise level, and then we'll talk about it as well. So this will be Paul Felder, Dan Hardy, and Angela Hill answering my question on what they expect to see in Holly Holm, Irina Aldana. Let's talk about this weekend's card. Holly Holm, Irina Aldana, obviously a big fight in that division. As you're starting to break this thing down and study the tape, what's most intriguing to you about this? What's going to set the terms for how this plays out?
God, I think if Aldana can use that boxing, man, I think for that weight class, she's got some of the best power in that division. And Holly's just so tricky, such a veteran with the kicks. I expect her to use a lot of side kicks, keep her at range, throw head kicks, be sneaky, and mix in takedowns as well. I think we're going to see her really utilize her wrestling in this fight too. Because that left hook that she landed against, she just fought this weekend. Yeah, Vieta. I mean, you don't see those kind of knockouts that often, right, especially from punches, right? You see it from head kicks. Obviously, you put a shin upside in somebody's head, they're going to get knocked out. But to see just a beautiful step-in left hook, and she's got some of the sickest boxing in that division.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's go to the main event this week. Holly Holm, Irina Aldana, obviously a big fight in that division, former champ, top contender. When you're breaking this fight down, what's standing out to you most? What's going to dictate what ends up happening here?
Well, what's interesting is obviously we've got Holly Holm, who was a standout boxer before she crossed over to mixed martial arts, but really her strength in mixed martial arts is her kicking game. And then we've got Irina Aldana, who really, she models herself on a lot of those tough Mexican boxers from back in the day. And I mean, we saw that in a fight against Caitlin Vera, that the speed at which she covered distance, that left hook that she landed, I mean, I like a good left hook, you know me, and I can pick fault in most people's left hooks. That was pretty perfect. Like, I watched it through a few times last night, slow motion, and as she lands, her hand's in the right position, her hips are twisting, her feet are right. I think that she's going to try and close distance on Holly Holm and force her to box, and I think that's going to make Holly quite uncomfortable because she tends to like to bookend those, that range. Although she likes boxing, her kicking game and her clinch work is really what I think she's going to be using in this fight.
So we'll talk about this week's card. Holly Holm, Irene Aldana, big main event. Obviously, big stakes there. I mean, it's going to have title implications. But when you break it down, like, what do you think is going to dictate what happens here? I mean, obviously, both very high-level strikers. How does this thing play out? What's going to determine who wins this fight?
I think it depends on how well Aldana is able to handle Holm's pressure. I think judging from Holly's fight with Megan Anderson, she's probably going to try to pressure up against the fence and take her down. And I think that's probably the best bet for her just because she isn't really a power puncher. She likes to land points and move a lot. And Aldana proved to be pretty good against that type of striker. So I feel like to shut her down, just getting her in the clinch, getting her up against the cage, trying to drag her down, trying to put her where no one's really taking advantage of her yet. Aldana did have pretty good ground game in some of her fights, so she'd have to be careful, but Holm's been doing this a bit longer than Aldana, so I feel like if she uses her veteran skills against her in that way, just exploit the grappling department, then that'd be a good way for her to get the win. But I'm kind of rooting for Aldana. Like, I want to see her fight the champ. I think it would be nice to have a fresh face fighting for the title. And Aldana has power. She has that cool boxing style that I love. You know, I always try to go in there and just throw hands as much as possible. And yeah, Aldana has those hands. She's had them for a while, and I think she finally found the mark. She finally found that knockout button against a girl who's never been stopped before, which is even more impressive. So I'm happy for her. I love her origin story. I love the fact that she started as an artist and then started moving towards martial arts. It's like we have like the same like story. It came up in the same like year too. So part of me is rooting for her, but also, you know, Holm is a veteran. She's really great at what she does. So I'm just interested to see how it happens.
All right, so some thoughtful analysis there from the people that are being paid to analyze the fight, so it's good that it's thoughtful. All right, listen, I kind of agree a lot with what they're saying. I mean, the kickboxing range, you got to think it favors Holly Holm. The boxing range, of course, you got to think it favors Irene Aldana. The grappling range and the grappling department, I think most people feel, you know, Holly Holm not only is better there, but needs to use it there. I just don't know necessarily, you know, I don't know that Holly's necessarily going to be able to take Aldana down easy. I think she's improved in those areas. I think once it gets there, Aldana's gotten better on the ground. I'm intrigued by this fight, and I am highly respectful of Holly Holm. She's a future UFC Hall of Famer. She's a part of this sport's history, no question about it. I just wonder if now it's time for a contender like Aldana, who, by the way, I've been a big fan of her style since she came up through Invicta, but I really feel like it's all putting it together. I ended up leaning Aldana in this. I think if this does stay on the feet, if this does end up being a striking matchup, I feel like Holly's going to have some problems. Yes, I mean, because she's effective from kickboxing range, of course. But, I mean, yeah, when we think of her high kick, I mean, you're talking about Ronda Rousey, you know what I mean, who, no disrespect, but certainly was not the striking level of Irene Aldana. Yeah. Or, if you will, Irene Aldana, if you want to go the Daniel Cormier route from the other night. Got to poke a little fun at him. But I am actually intrigued by this fight. I mean, I get it. Certainly, you know, it's this card as a whole is not nearly as big, of course, as the pay-per-view we've had, that sort of thing. But I am intrigued by this fight in particular because, and I think maybe more than anything, it's because I've been a big fan of Aldana's style and her way up and her incredible knockout last time out, man. I mean, this fight could be fun to me. Now, as I said before, the problem is, you know, do you go, and then you're going to go starch Amanda Nunes? I mean, that's the only problem that downplays it. But as far as the styles go, what do you make of this fight?
So, for me, this fight, where I find the interesting sort of sub-story is Holly Holm has been around for so long at this point. She's a legitimate, like, huge veteran of the women's game. And it's amazing that she's still so perennially at the top, right?
Agreed.
The downside of being that person at the top for so long is there's a lot of footage and tape on you for the
Yes.
people coming up to observe, you know? So that, combined with the fact is Holly 38?
38.
Right, so Holly's also nearing the age now where people suddenly get old.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think Holly's...
Now, incredible physical condition at 38 years old.
Holly Holm is a freak at 38,
Yes.
but you know, she for a fighter, the fighters...
The fast twitch muscle starts to slow down a little bit, that sort of thing.
You know, this is the age where it's one fight you're fine, and the next it's a rapid decline.
I get it.
And I think she is approaching that time. I don't think she's there now, but certainly I'm curious to see when that happens to her, as it inevitably does, right? So for me, I'm more curious to see if Holly can remain the consistent fighter that she has been.
Yep.
I really like Holly, and so I feel a bit bad about saying this. I do think she's something of a throwback fighter.
Right.
I think... I know there's a lot of conversation about women's MMA in terms of where it ranks versus men's MMA, and it hasn't evolved as much, and there's probably some legitimacy to that. But I think Holly is...
well, it's not a sexist thing to say. I mean, she comes from a generation where very few female mixed martial artists were making a living. And so
I'm not trying to say that. I mean, what I'm saying is her style alone is very sort of like bread and butter basics.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So what I mean is, so in the early days of women's mixed martial arts, it was very much like the early days of men's mixed martial arts. There wasn't an opportunity to train full time, so you weren't well rounded. So why was Ronda Rousey so great? Because she had one skill set on an entirely different level than anybody else. You know what I mean? And I think Holly did at one point as well, where her striking, her refinement was on a different level than other people. Now, of course, her athleticism has always been there too, the stamina, that sort of thing. But now the women have been competing at such a high level for so long that I think people have caught up to her. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's when you say that. I hope people understand that it's not an insult. I think it's a reality. It wasn't that long ago that being a female mixed martial artist was not a full-time job.
Yeah, I think like her game just like frankly hasn't evolved. I think like she's obviously a phenomenal kickboxer, but I think if you watched enough tape on her, you would know that when she starts going ush ush ush, she's going to throw a 1-2 left head kick.
Right.
I just think it's part of her game, and I think she's been at the same camp for a very long time. She's incredibly loyal to them, which I respect a lot.
Yep.
But I think it probably wouldn't have hurt her to freshen up at some point during her career. Whatever.
It's interesting.
Whatever. But I just think
it's so cool. She calls him Mr. Winklejohn. She has that. She has that loyalty, man.
I mean, she's
There's
great.
no way not to cheer for Holly Holm.
Yeah,
she is
she's
one of the
great.
most beloved
She's
figures
great.
in the
She's
sport.
great, and I'd love to see her. I'd love to see her work. Like, there's something inspiring about going for a title again and again and again. I find that really endearing. It's like the Michael Bisping thing, right?
Yeah.
But I do wonder if we've seen the last of her at that now. You know, I think she'll always be good. This is going to sound like really blunt, but she's always been good to be a title contender.
Sure.
I wonder if we're now entering the Holly Holm gatekeeper period of her career.
That's not well, especially as long as you have Amanda Nunes at the top. It's always tough when you have that one person that's just a cut above. You know, when you have Anderson Silva, when you have John Jones, when you have Demetrius Johnson, it's frustrating. But I get exactly what you're saying. This fight is basically a pick 'em according to the odds makers, and I don't disagree with that at all. I think it may be Aldana's time. And again, I've always been a big fan of her style, the boxing, the way she approaches things. I dig it. So I'm leaning Aldana in this fight. And that's certainly the featured matchup. I will say this, by the way, and I did think it was going to be the co-main. It ended up not being the co-main. Juliana Pena versus Jermaine Durandamy. Man, Juliana Pena, I said that she came in without the big chip on her shoulder that she normally has. She still had a chip on her shoulder. It just wasn't quite as big. She is full of piss and vinegar, and I love it. She's always been that way. If you want to go hear her full interview, it's on the MMA Junkie YouTube page. It's on MMA Junkie as well. But I thought her point was interesting because, a lot of people believe that she's been right there at the top for a long time and that she is right there. It's just been the layoff. Now, having a layoff because you become a mom, it's hard to punish somebody for that. But we are in a sport that, insists that you get results. But then she made her comeback, and then she had an injury, and so she had another layoff. So she's had like one win in the last 3 years or so. But man, when she came in and talked to us, man, she did not hold back. She was like, I deserve this opportunity. It's not even a question. She was like, I win this fight. It doesn't matter if Aldana wins. It doesn't matter if Holm wins. It's me. I don't know that she's necessarily going to be able to convince that. Now, if Holm wins, maybe Pena,
Probably.
yeah,
That's the
maybe
case,
Pena
yeah.
can slip by. But if Aldana wins, unless Aldana wins a boring fight and Pena wins dramatically against de Randamie, I think it's going to be a tough sell. But it does make – I think that's what makes this main event. So I like the main event, but I like the fact that, what I thought was going to be the co-main event. It's only the third fight down, not that bad. But I do think that the fact that you have so many top people in one division on one card. Yeah, it's fun. You feel like
mini
there's
tournament of the night. I like that.
That's it.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm guessing here, but it feels like the card has been sculpted for Aldana to get a title shot. That seems to be the mission here is to give her the signature win to get her up to fight Amanda. As you said, if she comes out and just fucking shits the bed, and Juliana comes out and starches,
not bad.
I could see them pulling the switch.
Yep.
But it seems to me that if they both won in relatively similar fashion, Aldana's getting a title shot. Maybe if Pena's sat out, she could get the one afterwards. But I mean, it's not like Amanda's got 2 belts to be juggling around,
Here's what's interesting according to
if
the odds.
Pena wanted to be a baller, she could win and then be like, okay, she's having the title shot at this weight. I'll fucking move up to 145 and have the title shot at that weight.
That would be pretty amazing, right?
And then she'd lose up there instead. No.
That would be amazing. Look at the odds as well. I'm actually surprised. See, it's almost basically a pick'em as well, which I'm not surprised. But Jermaine de Randamie is actually a slight favorite over Pena, and I don't necessarily disagree with that because
based on her fight against Amanda, though, that seems
that's my problem.
See,
to me, I think when you look at that line, what you're thinking is, okay, hold on. De Randamie has been a former champion. She's been competing frequently. She has been at the highest level. Sir, she's the inaugural women's featherweight champion. But no, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. Everybody hates on GDR. Leave GDR. She has the greatest energy. She's such a sweet lady.
She beat the main event this weekend.
She's such a sweet lady, and I enjoy being around her. But I get it. Trust me, I understand there will always be controversy over her title reign. But I will say this: I kind of understand why she's the favorite. Like, if she can keep this fight on the feet, yes, she will absolutely hurt Juliana Pena. But we saw what happened. I mean, she was having success against Amanda Nunes, and Amanda was like, okay, well, I'm going to turn to my wrestling then because this isn't working, and dominated.
I have to say, I don't know how you make GDR the favorite, to be honest, just based on styles make fights in MMA, and I think, as we mentioned before about women's MMA is a newer sport, particularly in women's MMA, styles make fights. Like Tatiana Suarez is murking people because they don't know how to wrestle and stuff, right? So styles make fights in women's MMA. I think we just saw this fight. I don't think Amanda Nunes' takedown is blisteringly amazing. Yeah. And I think Pena is probably on a similar level in terms of wrestling.
I would agree.
So I think we saw this play out before. So I'm really, really surprised to hear de Randamie's favorite.
Look, you're not getting huge money on it, and I'll just be clear. I don't bet MMA because when I have my money tied to fights, I cannot look at them without bias. I'm just that guy. I cannot disconnect myself from my money. So I don't bet MMA. No. So don't take it as expert analysis. Not that it's illegal or immoral. I know it shades the way I look at the fight. But the idea of having Pena and Aldana at, basically pick 'em or slight plus money, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, let's talk about what's on the rest of the card. In order to do that, I will re-enlist some of our experts again.
So we don't have to do it.
I think you'll do a better job than me. But before I do that, let me just say, if you like what you're hearing, and I don't know why you wouldn't like what you're hearing. First of all, make sure that wherever you listen to podcasts, you are logged in, you're subscribed, you're telling people about us. We'd appreciate that. If you can rate us, review us, leave some feedback, 5 stars, all that good stuff, we would really, really appreciate it. Or if you want to take your game to the next level, head on over to patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. Sign up there for as little as $3 a month. You can help support the show. Let us know that you appreciate the work that we're putting in, and we enjoy putting the work out. I mean, 288 consecutive weeks without fail, a fresh episode. Come on, man. Who else does that for you? Go on to patreon.com.
Pay the man.
Pay the man. That's what I'm saying. And, of course, the exclusive home of the and-a-half episodes where we give you wrap-ups after every single UFC show, which means every single week of the year at this point now the pandemic is over. Let me just say shout out to Brian Mills, Martin, and Lewis Tuff. We appreciate you all joining the squad, man. Thank you very much. That means a lot to us all, gentlemen. All right, let's talk about the rest of this card. Paul Felder, Angela Hill, and Brendan Fitzgerald. I got his little opinion on this about other fights that we need to see. Of course, the main event. But what about other fights that we should keep a lookout for? Here's what they weighed in with.
Any other names that are standing out for you, whether it be something you've seen on tape or or a discussion you've had? I mean, any other fights that may be under the radar?
One of the fighters I really like is that Casey Kenny. I think is a really exciting kid to watch on this card, and he's got a great matchup. I think those guys are going to go at it, and it's going to be an all-out brawl for 3 rounds, in my opinion, and potentially one of the fight of the nights on that card. And anytime Carlos Condit is on the card, I don't care what his latest fights have been. The Natural Born Killer's fighting. I'm tuning in. I've been a fan since WEC. I've been a training partner and somebody that has experienced the training room with him many times. I've been head kicked by him and beat up by him for years. So, and Court McGee, one of the toughest guys, and always brings it.
Yeah.
Oh, you ain't getting Court McGee out of there without one hell of a fight. So that's one that stood out when I was looking at the card again today. That I love that matchup. I know it's 2 veterans, but sometimes those fights end up being just an all-out bloodbath.
The Colt main actually threw me for a loop. I wasn't too familiar with those guys. But DaCosta, Joran DaCosta, is that how you pronounce it?
Jorgen De Castro?
Yeah, De Castro.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I just found out about him today. But I've been doing my research, and he's a beast, man. He's looked really good in his first half a round with Greg Hardy, and all his fights before that, he just nails people with leg kicks, fast leg kicks. He has fast body kicks, and for a guy his size, you usually don't see that explosiveness. So I'm actually really excited for that co-main. At first I was like, why aren't the girls the co-main? But I'm actually excited for that, and the guy that he's fighting just presents his leg, even worse than Costa presented his leg to Adesanya. He presents his leg out to be kicked. So I'm wondering if he's gonna just snatch it up and take it and try to get another leg kick KO. But obviously I'm looking forward to the strawweight matchup. My last win was against Loma Lookmanmi, but I always kind of felt conflicted about fighting her because she has that pure Muay Thai style, and I always loved that about her. I remember watching her first fight in Invicta, and she just hit maybe 50 Muay Thai sweeps on this girl who was charging forward, and it was so perfect, and you could tell she'd just done it a million times, and it was just really effortless. And I watched that fight, and I was like, I'm gonna start doing Muay Thai sweeps again. And then I had my fight with Hannah Cyphers and swept her and elbowed her. So thanks, Loma. Thanks for the inspiration. And Jingyu Fry, she's another person who was coming up when I was at Invicta, and just to see them both get to this level is really cool. And yeah, I'm hoping for a great fight.
Charles Jourdain is he's awesome, man. He's such a nice kid. He's young. He's really good. He's exciting. He he basically says this is not a marathon career. This is a sprint career. We're out here fighting. I'm 24 years old. I gotta get in and do it while I can, and do it while I'm at the top of my game. And his last fight against Feely was really good. I'm interested to see how he grows from that, because that was the first time he took an L from a non-wrestler. But he's there to be exciting. And for Josh Kulabau, I get the similar sense from him, and he fights up a weight class in New Zealand against Jalen Turner, the tallest lightweight in the division. So for him to come back to 145, and I think that's a fun fight.
All right, thank you to Paul Felder, Angela Hill once again, and Brendan Fitzgerald as well. By the way, I taped a podcast with Brendan Fitzgerald this afternoon, so that'll be out the next week or two, his podcast. All right. So a couple names that were brought out there. Paul Felder brought up the Casey Kenny name as somebody that he's keeping an eye on that could be a very fun matchup there. Hard time disagreeing with there. Casey Kenny always has good fights. Haile Alateng on the other side. That could be a fun matchup. Angela Hill, I like this. And obviously no surprise she's looking at the women's matchup. But I will say this, Loma Lookmanmi, if you're not familiar with her, the first Thai fighter in the UFC, and she is pure Muay Thai. Legit fun Muay Thai. And for somebody like me that actually Muay Thai was my path into MMA, I love seeing pure Muay Thai, and she is fun. And in fighting Jinh Frey, Jinh Frey actually came through the Tough Enough ranks in Las Vegas that I have a lot of respect for as well. I love it because they're both atom weights as well. So
right.
There is no atom weight division, so at least neither one of them will be overmatched. And so I like that. And then of course Brendan Fitzgerald throwing out Charles Jourdain, who I think we enjoy talking to Charles Jourdain as well. So a lot of interesting matchups. Of course, Carlos Condit, Court
Yeah.
McGee. I mean, that's the one that everybody's talking about. And it is cool to see how fans are reacting to this, man, because Condit's on this losing streak. And we talked about it a little bit, man. I feel like people have such respect for him. And when we talked to him, he mentioned how even though he's on the losing streak, he still feels like he belongs in the UFC, belongs, against not necessarily saying that he's like title bound or anything like that, but he feels like he's not one of these people that needs to be talked into retirement or anything like that. So listen, while this card isn't star-studded in terms of must-watch TV, this is certainly one you could probably catch on Sunday afternoon if you want or something like that. But I do think there are. So, there's some fights that were brought up there, and, I think there's some others as well. So give me a rundown, especially, I will say this. I love talking to the fighters again, man.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Virtual Media Day, but I'll just say it over and over and over. You just get a whole different sense for things when you get a chance to actually sit down and interview these people. So knowing that Media Day is in the books, knowing that, of course, yes, you're not going to probably necessarily identify the next champion that can't be missed right now, but what fights are kind of standing out to you?
Well, so as you said, the Media Day stuff, so when you're covering literally fights week in, week out that are now changing on the weigh-ins days and even fight day sometimes, I've got to be honest, man, like if you put a fight card in front of me these days, I couldn't guarantee you I'd know everyone on the card. I get it. There's too much fucking
I get
stuff
it.
going on.
There's so many fights, and like you said, they're changing day of.
And there's debutants and stuff like that. So when you do in-person Media Days, it's a whole game changer, man, because it's like, well, now, like, this is not just some random person talking to me on the screen. This is someone I had eye contact with. I recognize him. I heard his voice properly. So that makes a big difference. So based on that, Kyler Phillips, I can't be sure if this is true, but I'm pretty sure he's a reincarnation of Jesus Christ. He looks like it. He sounds like it. He's like Jesus Christ if Jesus had a surfboard instead of a crucifix, I guess. Sorry to
and some weed.
Yeah, he has lots of cannabis.
I did.
Yeah, so he's a I don't know. To be honest, I was just kind of looking at him without taking anything that he said in. I was like, my God, this man is just a picture perfect sort of like human. Here's cool. Daquan Townsend, I found him to be very interesting because obviously he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's an older gentleman in terms of MMA. He's in his 30s and he's fighting an undefeated prospect. And he had a very cool, calm, but determined energy to him that I kind of enjoyed. There's something about him, his presence, that I was like, he's almost intimidating without being intimidating. I don't know. There's just something like a little sort of a vibe of him that I enjoyed. And then, so that's another fight I'm interested in seeing. And then, of course, I know that you said it, but this card is Carlos Condit versus Court McGee, man.
I agree, right?
I saw Court McGee going down to the beach today. That means nothing.
I was like, what are you reading into that? There's nothing else to do.
No, nothing means nothing. It means nothing at all. But Carlos Condit, it was only when he was sitting in front of us and I looked up his record, I was like, God damn, motherfucker's lost a few fights.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting to hear him say, like, I don't think I've lost a step. I think it's been a bit sort of unlucky, and I hope that's true. We can only go on the evidence presented to us. So I like Court McGee a lot, and the guy's got a fascinating story, and he's so open about his addiction and stuff and stuff like that. But, man, if you've been around this game for a little bit, just a little bit, if you've been a fan of this sport for a while, like, Carlos Condit is, you said it to him, like, basically MMA royalty.
Yep.
MMA royalty, and he has, like, it's not like he had a lengthy title reign to himself or anything like that. He's just MMA royalty because he's a bad motherfucker.
The natural born killer, man. I agree. Hey, man, if it goes to show you this, he's scheduled on the preliminary card, but they brought him to the main card Media Day. You know what I mean? Like, that tells you the type of reputation. That fight's going to be good. No, I agree. Listen, Yorgan De Castro versus Carlos Felipe is kind of a weird co-main event to me, if I'm being honest, but two heavyweights that bring it, so it could kind of set it up. Maybe it'll be, kind of give some comparison and contrast between the ladies' fights. It'll be big. We'll see what happens. And by the way, even though they were, kind of doing it in a little bit of Portuguese, a little bit of English, but they were kind of speaking a little trash to each other, which kind of made it fun. Yorgan De Castro was kind of funny. He's like, I was like, man, you're talking trash. He's like, hey, man, we're in the co-main event. Why not throw a little salt and pepper on it a little bit? I was like, I like that. Throw a little salt and pepper on it. You mentioned Daquan Townsend. Very, very experienced in the game, but has not had the best run in the UFC so far. But, if you want to look at it from a human interest side, man, he lost some family members to a shooting. not that long ago, but he decided to go ahead and fight on anyway. But he's being put against a very tough Dusko Todorovic, who's made it through the Contender Series and then had to wait for a year to get here because of COVID-19. In fact, him testing positive for COVID-19 but never actually showing any signs of it. So he thinks it may have been a false positive that cost him his UFC debut, but here he is finally making it. And a good dude, man, with a kind of a level head on his shoulders, but just seems like hyper-focused. As you said, Condit McGee is there. Charles Jourdain that Fitzgerald brought up against Culibao, who Josh Culibao stepped up on short notice in his UFC debut, went up a weight class, got starched, unfortunately. And, man, how honest was he just saying, like, I've had to hear all the bullshit ever since, and I'm ready to go out and prove people, like all these trash talkers, I'm not who they said. So, again, I'll just call it like I see it. Out of the 5 cards that we're covering on Fight Island, this is probably the one that on the surface you just go, eh. And I'm not going to be that guy that goes, it's the ones you never expected are the best. I'm not saying that. If you want to watch it on Sunday, if you want to wait till you see what the results are and what you can go see, that's fine.
So are you saying this is the weakest card of the few?
Out of the 5, I would say so.
I don't know how you've said something so controversial yet so brave, John.
Yes, I know. It's just out there. Yes, I get it. So, but I will say, I think there's some fights worth watching. I think it could prove some entertainment. I'm not going to throw out the cliches out there, but I mean, look, if you're like us and you really have nothing else to do on a Saturday night anyway, we'll be online and we'll be watching it. So we'll chime in, and then you can always go over to patreon.com/MMA Roadshow to hear the and-a-half episode where we just deal with the reality of who we are. So, all right, listen.
Yeah, those are a lot more.
Yeah, no, we don't. Okay, that's on a completely different website. You don't want to hear about the reality of who we are.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so listen, since you brought it up, Kyler Phillips. I think Kyler Phillips is a unique individual, and I was kind of thinking about playing maybe one more audio, and since you brought it up as the next coming of a marijuana smoking surfing Jesus, I thought,
I just did.
I thought, why not? I thought this guy was interesting. So as we head out of here, here is Kyler Phillips.
Well, talk about it, man. Obviously, impressive last time out.
Yeah.
Big victory for you. I think it made a lot of big impression on a lot of people. What did it do for you in terms of confidence or belief or just knowing that, hey, yeah, I can perform at this level?
I knew from the beginning, but it was just not only a little baby step, but it's just a little part of it. Just a little bit performance, a little bit confidence, a little bit essence of peace and joy and stuff like that, but also that little fire inside that's burning, you know what I mean? So I can't wait to just go do it again and show the world what's up, serve it up with some Nikito Kai, you know what I'm saying? So.
Dig it. It's been a while. Obviously, it's been a crazy stretch of time between then and now, man. The entire world's changed. So I was just curious, the time between then and now, was that by plan, was that by design, or was that just kind of, the way the world's played out?
Designed by the way that the world's played out, yeah, for sure. You just said it. But, yeah, man, just I tried to fight a little bit earlier. I was trying to catch another one soon on in June, July, and then I tried to get September, but didn't play out. And then October happened, and I had an opponent fall out. So now, got another opponent, and it worked out. So just not stressing about it and, keep training is them just giving me more time to work. And it's been a blessing. It's been an honor, and I love what I do.
Yeah, you mentioned the late opponent change. I'm curious, is there any time to really change a game plan, study a guy? Do you even bother? How do you approach that?
A body's a body. You know what I mean? We're all human. A body's a body. He's got 2 hands, 2 legs, but what separates us is our minds and our hearts. And I feel like there's a lot of things that I bring to the table, and they're not gonna let them catch me slipping. So I'm gonna come really hot, and I'm gonna take them out.
Dig it. You can tell like the kind of mentality, the spirituality that you bring to the energy that you bring to it. Where does that come from? Is that something that you've always had? Something that you found late? What's the story there?
Like again, it's just a little bit of everything, a little bit of discipline, a little bit of peace, a little bit of hard work, a little bit of everything, just like 50 Cent says. So, I mean, I just love it, you know what I mean? And doing what I not just feel or know, but what it really is, what it truly is this is what I'm meant to do, and I love this, and there's nothing else I'd rather be doing or anywhere else or any other organization. So I'm just excited, and I can't wait to do it.
That's awesome. What's the goal? I mean, obviously the goal is to pick up a victory, of course, but is it to have an exciting exciting fight of the night type fight, or would you rather have a performance of the night? Where you go in there and you dominate and get somebody out early?
This is a game of life, and we're in the world and stuff, so things can play out a lot of different ways. You're gonna fight people, and sometimes they're gonna be tougher, sometimes they're gonna be more technical, sometimes they're gonna, fall, sometimes they're gonna come forward, and you just gotta be ready for anything. I'm literally ready to finish the guy in the first round, second round, drag him deep waters, submit him, ground and pound. I'm ready to just mix it up the whole way and go a full 3-round decision if I have to. So wherever it goes, that's where I'm planning on doing. And whatever circumstances they give me, I'm going to use the most of that and perform at the best of my abilities.
Nice. And last thing for me, I mean, what is the goal for yourself? You say, hey, I already knew I belonged at this level. So, I mean, do you feel like you can make a fast ascension in the rankings? I mean, is this something you want to shoot up the top of the division, or do you feel like, I'm still kind of young in my career, I can develop into that top contender?
We're here, man. You know what I mean? So I'm going all the way, and not just all the way to gold, but all the way, past that, way further than that, and that's what I'm here for. Things that are a lot bigger than me, and it's the beginning. Fight Island, you know what I'm saying? I love it here, dude. We went on jet skis this morning. Got a little tan. We've been doing a bunch of stuff. I got one of those outfits, me and my boy Marcus. So we're just doing a lot of fun stuff, and I like it out here. If it was up to me, I would just live out here. I want to live here. So hopefully I can get another fight soon. Somebody fight me.
Maybe you think you can turn around before we leave Fight Island?
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Yeah.
But I gotta get something booked, So that would be sick.
Is this mentality of like your last minute opponent, yes, 2 hands, 2 feet, everything? Do you think more fighters need that right now, considering you sign a contract? The way the world works, you might go through 2-3 opponents before you even enter the octagon.
I guess, yeah, it's just playing a little bit of both. Sometimes you're gonna be, you gotta just play with the cards you're dealt with, and then also sometimes you gotta be the master and plan of attack, and you gotta be the one playing the chess. But it's not always going to work out perfectly. Sometimes I try to control things and be in control of everything, and it doesn't work out that way. And you try to be so scientific with everything. You're trying to be so precise with your stuff, but something doesn't work out. You become stressed out. Okay, it's all good, and then just play with whatever you get. So I think mixing a balance of both and having a good time and still enjoying and relaxing and having fun, but then also being super concentrated and focused and, going out there and just super cutting through like a double-edged sword,
So are you the type of fighter that likes to plan their career, or do you just take it one day at a time?
Both. So we have a dual mindset as well. So just whatever, like I said, I like to be strategical. I'm trying to get better at being a lot more strategical, like a good strategy fighter. That's one thing I saw out of Israel Adesanya as well, is he's both a flow fighter, like a momentum fighter, but as well, he is a very good strategical fighter, So he finds his strategy, starts to pick away, but once he gets in flow state, he doesn't have to do that. So it's really hard to defeat those type of fighters without getting lucky, you know what I mean?
What is Nikita Kai?
Nikita Kai.
I know it's on your
Boom.
shirt, I just never knew what it was.
So I'm the 14th sensei in Nikita Kai. I just got my black belt last year.
Congratulations.
Super stoked about that. But Nikita Kai is basically just MMA, you know what I mean? It's the full form and tradition and the roots of martial arts, but mixed. So Ni, it stands for multiple. Ki is for the universal energy that we all have. Do is the way or the path, and then Kai is participant. So Kai is Kai Matrix, And that's what I'm gonna kick him with in his head.
So obviously I know that some of your strengths are jiu-jitsu, you're very versatile and you have a high work ethic. But is there anything you're looking to improve on, like in and outside the cage?
Both, always. Every second, every moment I get on this planet Earth is an opportunity for growth, and every time I just got to realize that it's not always going to be perfect, and just take a breath, and that breath of oxygen is a gift, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to do the best at what I get with, and work on the skills that I need to, sharpen the strengths, and then also work on all the weaknesses, because we all have that. We're all human, and basically.
All right, that was Kyler Phillips, smoking, surfing Jesus.
Arizona boy,
if you will. All right, so astute listeners will realize, hey, wait a minute, did they say they were going? Like, what is that about? They never end on an interview. Well, listen, we pulled the old switcheroo on Mr. Oscar Willis because we got to get into something right now. And I brought in another expert in his place. This is a man by the name of Jose Youngs. I'm told he works for some professional MMA outlet out there. I'm not really sure what it is, but he assures me. No, I'm just kidding. It works for MMA Fighting, of course. At one point, it was even the discussions to come work with us at MMA Junkie, but ended up over at MMA Fighting. And, of course, doing the entire 5-week Fight Island run with us.
The grind is real, sir.
The grind is real, right? We're just kind of getting into it, but what we're saying, we're kind of all getting settled in at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't really sunk in yet that I still have. I think I was doing the math. It's like 3.5 more weeks of this.
Right.
Like once fight night ends, and I'm like, all right, cool, and then it's like it's just rinse and repeat at that point for 3 more weeks, and then you guys have done it. You guys did it in July. You've been to Abu Dhabi enough times, so the time difference probably doesn't get to you as much as it gets to me. But I don't know. I was sitting on the patio in my hotel room, and I was like, 3.5 more weeks. God damn.
Well, so that's why we just come down to Stills, have a couple frosty beverages, and talk MMA.
I'm what they call a rookie to the Fight Island game.
Well, I'm
only in week 2 here.
We're gonna bring it, man. As you get settled, you get a little more comfortable, and you're bored and just want to come talk some MMA. We'll have you come hang out. We'll do a little what do they call it, a triple threat match or something. We'll just go all
triple threat. That's for those of you who don't know. John and I talked for pro wrestling for about 2.5 hours the other day.
We did,
and
that tells you how little we have to do here. We talked for about 2.5 hours about pro wrestling.
I'm glad you're adding some of it to the lexicon. I told some of our colleagues that in the business that we've been around enough times, and some of us people are like, oh, how's Abu Dhabi, how's Fight? I'm like, what if I told you I spent 2.5 hours in a bar talking professional wrestling with John Morgan? They'd be like, I probably wouldn't believe you. I was like, well, I'm not a liar. So there you go.
That's good, man. We'll have you on a little bit more over the next couple of weeks, man, if you got time to fit us in. So here's the reason I wanted to bring you in, because obviously Oscar Willis works for the MacLife.com. I can't even bring up Conor McGregor. He can't talk about it. But it's been such a huge story that I had to trick him and get him out of here and bring you in so that we could talk about it. Man, I mean, listen, it's been dominating the headlines. And man, you're like me. You know, we cover the beat. We understand we got to put the headlines out there. But, I mean, look, some of it feels real. Some of it doesn't feel real. Some of it is clear posturing. Some of it is clear positioning. And, by the way, that comes from both Conor McGregor's position as well as Dana White's position. You know, Dana White knows how to manipulate, you know, the storylines, the media, and all those things. They both do. So I guess we'll just start from the top, man. I mean, of all the things that are throwing out there, is there one part of it that feels the most real? Because, I mean, we're talking about a boxing match with Manny Pacquiao here in the Middle East, right? We're talking about I don't know. I guess we're talking about Diego Sanchez fight. I mean, I understand he's saying, listen, it's not fair to say that that's the timing because that was, you know, way back in the day when I brought it up. We're talking about a charity sparring session with Dustin Poirier, which, well, I won't tip my hand on that one yet. A charity sparring session with Dustin Poirier. It sounds like maybe a real fight with Dustin Poirier. We're talking about the Ultimate Fighter with Khabib, which seems to have been a reality that's lost. I mean, there's so many ways to go with this, but out of all these concepts and all these ideas and all these things, I mean, is there any of it that you heard and you go, oh, I think that might actually happen? Or maybe you thought it all might happen. Maybe he'll do it all.
I don't know what to think anymore when Conor McGregor tweets. I feel like he'll tweet something and then like 24 hours he'll change his mind. Or better yet, the tweet will be deleted. So I think we've both been in the beat long enough where I don't know what to believe because I don't want to think about someone because, especially in 2020,
right?
12 hours from now, it's irrelevant.
Yep.
It's like for all we know. So I think when they tried to set up this charity boxing match, I think it was a way of Conor trying to get a little bit of the power back because, I mean, we were at the post-fight press conference and we're like, Conor's tweeting and Dana White has a live microphone. I think somebody compared it to like someone heckling a stand-up comedian. Like you're yelling at someone with a microphone. Like it never works out for you. Like you're gonna look the fool. So I think Dana White was in the driver's seat for a long time, and him saying like, oh, I don't know what this Manny Pacquiao thing, which I don't honestly believe. I don't know how Conor can have an exhibition match without the UFC knowing, or at least hearing about it.
Look, I've said that too. Like the UFC Dana 100%. Had to know about it. I was talking to Submission Radio boys the other day, and they kind of made a joke. They were like, "Oh, I thought you said Danny Pacquiao." Like, yeah, exactly. Manny Pacquiao. Oh, no. I did know about Manny Pacquiao. I did know about Manny.
That is hilarious. And then when they tried to put this charity sparring match together, my first instinct was like, you know what? Good on Conor, because like, what's Dana White gonna say? No, we don't want you to
to spar.
Like, we don't want you to donate to charity after sparring. Like, what if he could just be like, well, if I have a fight, I'm just bringing in Dustin Poirier to spar.
But here's the thing is with that, and I actually got into a kind of a lengthy conversation with somebody this on Twitter last night, is you're right about that. Like, I spar every day or I spar every week during camp. However, even if it's for charity, I believe as soon as you take money for a ticket or a donation, as soon as it's broadcast anywhere. Like if you say, hey, we're doing it behind closed doors, like I mean I don't even know what you would do. I guess it would be like a walkathon or something. Like, hey bro, there's no television, there's no tickets. You just have to trust me when I tell you how many laps I ran or whatever. Like, I mean, as soon as there's $1 changing hands for the ability to watch it live or the ability to watch it on a stream, at that point, it's a business you're promoting, even if it's for charity, and I think the UFC completely shuts it down.
Yeah, I would imagine it's still the optics would look bad, I guess, was what I would say.
For the UFC to shut down a charity
event.
I agree.
I would understand completely, like, if the UFC came and shut down a sparring match that some sort of they were getting some sort of monetary gain from, whether it was from charity or not. I wouldn't really it wouldn't surprise me because like it's the UFC's there. Like I know you can't have an exhibition match it's in their contracts.
Right.
It would just optically look bad for the UFC, and I kind of want to say Conor called their bluff maybe or something like that where he's like, well, if I'm not having a fight, I'll just spar and it's for charity. So if you want to take the charity part away, like he knows it will look bad.
But you know you have to, even no matter it look bad, you know you have to set that precedent, right? 100%. Like you can't allow a loophole like that.
Oh, 100, like 100%, because then if they allow Conor to do it, then like John Jones is going to do it. If Francis God, what if all of a sudden Francis is like, you know what? I think I'm going to spar Deontay Wilder for charity. Like, because you know how much he wants to go into boxing, and then all of a sudden, and then like, oh, I looked good against Deontay Wilder. Maybe I should actually. And then all of a sudden, he wants to have a big boxing match. Because remember when Conor and Floyd was made, the Nevada State Athletic Commission is like, oh, we signed off on it because other boxers were calling out Conor.
Right.
So it's like, well, he must be a good fighter. Then he's like, well, he looked good in sparring. Why not sanction that fight? So I think he would open it would open the floodgates. So it's a lose-lose situation, I think, for the UFC at this point.
So I guess before we say what do you think is next, let me ask you what you think the relationship is, because they are publicly going at it, right? I mean, we saw these text messages being posted, or direct messages, which, by the way, I do find, and I've heard a lot of people say, like, how ridiculous is it that they speak via direct message? By the way, I've heard that for years. It used to be Twitter, and now it's Instagram. The two of the most powerful people in the sport communicate via Instagram direct message, which I think is funny. So anyway,
I'm just glad Dana White moved on from a flip phone.
That is true. That's true. I bet he still has one. I bet
probably.
So I don't know. What do you think? I mean, do you feel like this relationship is going in the wrong direction, that it's irreparable, or that they're going to just stay? Because here's what I did. I was talking about Submission Radio Boys the other day. They brought it up, and they were like, how bad could it get? And that was the way they phrased it. I said, well, it could get really bad. Like, both of them have FU money, right? Neither one of them has to have each other. So if they want to just piss in the wind all day, they can. But I get the feeling that it's at least they can salvage this at some point.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think it's they can definitely salvage it, because even Dana White came out and he did an interview with Robbie Barstool. He was like, we offered both of them an actual fight. So, like, they want to spar. Why not have an actual, like, make money instead of for charity? So, if they're actually having open negotiations with Conor already, you know the relationship is 100% salvageable. But they've argued a million times. Like, Dana White argued, like, remember in Boston, we were at the Boston card. Right. All three of us, me, you, Oscar, and that was the week Colby said, if Dana White tries to put that belt on me, I'm going to turn around and slap him. Right. This is before I was come on. And Dana White just goes, yeah, good luck with that, buddy. Right. He's got a big mouth. And then they don't shake hands, all this beef. And now they're all of a sudden taking photos with President Trump. They're like they're like dapping it up and everything. So it's like anything is salvageable. So true. Anything is any relationship is salvageable.
Colby and Ali, you're kicking it over there.
Dude, that was the most if we're talking about what's unbelievable and what's believable, that was the most unbelievable thing I've seen.
I tell you, man, I'm sure you're not an avid reader of MMA Junkie, but when I saw that photo, like, I had to put up a post right away. I'm like, it gave us this amazing, like,
I asked him at the pre-fight, quote unquote scrum that he did, and he's like, yeah, he knew he didn't talk to me. He knows what'll happen if he talks to me.
So like,
funny. All right.
So what do you think's moving forward? So I mean, as you said, Dana White came out and said, hey, listen, I've offered this fight. I've offered Conor and Dustin to fight. Do you think that's what we end up getting out of this?
Of all possible,
or is this Manny Pacquiao thing still real? Is this? I'm gonna say this. I'm taking this one off the table. The sparring thing, or the charity boxing, that is not going to happen. I understand. There's no way in a million years that's going to happen. I think the Manny Pacquiao thing could happen. Now I know that sounds stupid because for I don't know, a good year and a half said, oh, this Mayweather thing is so dumb, and then it happened. I'm like, sorry, just kidding. It was it's amazing. So I think it could happen. I'll be honest, I don't want to see it. I could care less about seeing him box Pacquiao, but it could happen. So I'll throw that one out as reality. Then we know the Poirier fight's on the table.
Right.
And then, of course, I guess any other UFC fight is technically on the table, right? I mean, he's under UFC contract. So Pacquiao, Poirier, or do you see another fight?
I think of all possible scenarios, I now think the Poirier fight's the most logical and the one that will probably. I don't know if it happens because it's such a weird. Like I still can't imagine Conor fighting in front of no fans. Like that's bizarre too.
That's a good point too,
but
man.
of all those scenarios, I think the Poirier fight happens is the most likely to happen, considering Dana White's already publicly said, I've offered the fight.
Right.
What was it, like 2 days ago,
Yep.
less than a day ago, and Poirier tweeted, I accept. So.
Right.
Of all possible scenarios, I think that's the one that will most likely happen, and I'm fine with it. Like, if I had to pick, that'd be the one I would pick.
I agree.
I would rather watch a sparring match with Conor and Poirier than Conor box Manny Pacquiao at this point. I mean,
you know what? It's hard for me to disagree with that. It's hard for me to disagree with that.
Now,
are we talking about like full-on smoker type of sparring? Or are we talking about like, hey, we're going 50% sparring? What type of sparring are we talking about here?
I mean, I'm weird, and I love watching. I'll watch Conor. I'll pay $5 to see Conor hit pads. I'll pay $3 to watch Justin Poirier just do grappling practice. Like, I'm a weirdo like that. Like, me and my cameraman Casey Lyden, like, one of our favorite days of the week when they used to have it was open workouts.
Right.
Because I just like watching professional fighters do their thing in like a comfortable environment. So if they want to go like hard in the paint like Conor and Paulie Malignaggi did, I would not hate it, but I would much rather watch an actual fight.
Wow, when you bring it up like that, like who wouldn't pay to watch that fight,
That's what
right?
I'm saying.
The sparring session of Paulie Malignaggi?
Like if it's like if Conor's like if they're peaking and everything.
So it's like so it'd have to be like dress rehearsal basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you walk in from one side, he walks in. We have a referee that technically isn't the referee, but we're making it look like the referee.
They bring someone in to it's a mock fight, if you would, and so like I'll
take that over Pacquiao. Now, 100%. Being clear that will never happen, but I would take that over a Pacquiao fight.
Yeah, and I mean I'm not gonna be on here and say I wouldn't watch Conor box.
Oh, of course
Manny
we'd
Pacquiao.
watch it. Yeah,
but like I also think Manny Pacquiao would smush Conor. I think he would. I think he's just another beast entirely. I think Floyd Mayweather is the best boxer of our generation, and he makes anyone look bad.
Right.
But I think Manny Pacquiao, like that fight he had against Thurman, I thought Thurman was going to just run through Manny Pacquiao, and he just cooked him. I think Manny Pacquiao is entirely another beast altogether. I also don't think Conor beats any top elite boxer in the world, especially in boxing.
And that's no disrespect to him.
No.
I mean, it's one thing like, dude, he would beat a lot of boxers.
Yes.
A lot of boxers.
Yes.
Just not the best of the best
people
of the
be
best.
like, oh, Conor's 0-2. We're like, yeah, but look who he lost to.
I know.
It's like when people, I'm not comparing their skills, but like people are like, oh, Felicia Spencer, like, oh, she's not that great. I'm like, who has she lost to? Cyborg and Amanda Nunes.
Not bad.
It's not bad.
Not bad.
Beat everyone else except the two greatest female fighters of all time. So if Conor goes 0-2 against the two greatest boxers of my lifetime, I'm not going to say he's a bad boxer.
I dig it, man. Well, listen, you brought up Casey. You want to bring up Esther just real quick? I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
I know you kind of gave an official bye-bye on your own channel, but I'm sure to listeners of this show and MMA Junkie listeners and all that. I mean, listen, it's funny. Like Junkie and fighting have a rivalry of sorts. Yeah, it's a healthy rivalry, man. I think that's what people understand. We don't go out of our way to mention each other. We don't go out of our way, but behind the scenes, if we want to pull back the curtain a little bit, we're all there for each other, man.
100%.
Like we're working in the trenches together, and certain things happen. Like damn, my battery malfunctioned, my memory card malfunctioned,
100%.
my whatever. Like, oh, hold on, bro, I got a backup piece of gear I'll give to you. You know what I mean? I always say is like, look, I'll be honest. If you're not there, I'm not sending you anything.
Oh, no, I know what I ask or expect.
Right, but if you're there, and I know it's this way for all of us. I mean, I know that like between Casey, Esther, you, me, hell, let's throw Oscar in there, Kenny.
Yeah.
We've all helped each other in some way where like something happened, something didn't work, we've had a tech issue, and rather than for any of us having to go to our boss and be like, dude, I'm so sorry, I don't have this piece of audio, piece of video, piece of whatever, we just go, bro, here, take this. You'll get me back at some point. So behind the scenes, even though the rivalry out front may seem harsher than it is, it's not. And I'll just say, man, I hate to see Esther go, man. I mean, obviously, very, very talented and been around the game for a long time. And you know, I'm not nearly as close to her as you or anybody else on your staff is, but just always seemed like a great human being to me. And now she's walking away to. I mean, good for her though. She's walking away to pursue some other passions. She's been in a tough spot, right? As a combat sports photographer, the coronavirus has not been good. So I don't know. I guess since you're here and you brought up Casey, I would be remiss not to bring up Esther and get your thoughts on kind of her walking away.
Yeah, it's hard. I think you said it best. Like, we have a rivalry, but I also think like we're always trying to outdo one another, but it's like a healthy rivalry. We're like, oh, you break this news, we're gonna break this news. Oh, you're shooting in 4K, now we're gonna shoot in 4K.
Right.
So we elevate each other at this point. But I think Esther is one of those rare people in any industry with rivals. Like, it could be like Coke and Pepsi, or like any aspect of business where it's
I watched Ford versus Ferrari on the way over here. It's a good movie.
10 out of 10. I don't even like cars.
I don't like cars either. This is a good movie.
So, but Esther is one of those rare occasions where every single person in the business likes it.
Absolutely.
No one dislikes her.
It's a good point.
Like,
man.
even fighters, like John Jones can be a little standoffish sometimes.
Cantankerous at times.
Yes, a little bit, or untrusting whatsoever. But I remember UFC 239 media day before Thiago Santos, who was in the lobby of the T-Mobile Arena, and she was like, "Hey, John, can I do the portraits?" Like, 'cause she does the fighter portraits in media. And John's like, "100%. Where you want to do it?" And she's like, "Let's go do it on this by the elevator." And John did a full-on like photo spread for Esther. So
Really?
it's like John, like there is no person in this game that doesn't not only like respect Esther, but they just like her. Like,
Yep.
she and it's also hard to say like it's hard to say there's a consensus greatest of all time in anything. It's hard to argue that anyone is better than Esther at photographing mixed martial arts, maybe all combat sports.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, listen, I mean, we have some very talented
100%.
photographers that work for us as well, but I will say this. When you talk about somebody that has done it for as long as she has, and when you cross over between mixed martial arts and boxing as well. So I would definitely agree with that. And I think the biggest thing is with her is that, I mean, listen, as technology gets good, all these things help. But her sense of where to be, and the fact that she's a little tiny person that can squeeze in between, obviously the famous shot of her up on the gym at the PI and stuff like that. I mean, the fact that she knows she can kind of squeeze in between people, move places. That's what I mean. She has a great sense of where to be, and man, she's gonna be missed. And who knows? I mean, maybe life will change a year or two from now, and she'll come back. Because I don't think it's like she's hey, by the way, I walked away, and I also Office Space, or what was the movie where they just not Office Space. The Office, where they just destroyed all like the computers and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know what I'm talking about. It's not like she smashed all her gear or anything like that.
The bridge is still there. I think it's like you said it best. Like, what can a photographer do if there's nothing to photograph? And like, she took a little vacation a couple months ago to Montana, and she was like, "Man, I don't think I've shot anything in like a couple since the pandemic hit." So she was taking advantage of that. She's anyone that's watched our timelines. She's the voiceover artist for that too, and she's now pursuing a career in voiceover art. She wants to. But like when I say voiceover art, people think she wants to do like animated TV shows. And, like, she wants to be like the if you put the headphones on, like the museum.
Right.
So it's like let me tell you about this work of art in front of you, or like we're gonna read a book.
A very calm,
100%.
soothing voice.
Or like these amazing headphones you have. If I didn't know how to use them and I wanted an audio tutorial, then Esther could. Like, she wants to do that kind of stuff. So she wants to teach. Did
it get brought up in the sense of timing of her walking away that like the last thing she shot was Israel Adesanya, and she walked away right after Israel Adesanya?
It was mentioned as like kind of like a joke, but honestly, like we get her photographs immediately after. And for whatever that fight was, she managed to make that fight look like a fight of the year. Like she got the, remember when Yoel Romero like got on his face and was screaming? She got like the sweat coming out of his mouth. She got that leg kick where Romero's like legs flipped in the air. She got them pointing at each other. Like, for what she can make any fight look like $1 million. And let's also not forget the last female fight she photoed was Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Wiley Zhang.
Wow.
So it's like,
That's a
what
great
better
legacy.
way? What better way to go out than that?
That's a great legacy. Cool, man. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you slipping in here at the end.
Before we sign off, though,
yeah.
do you have a favorite Esther photo? We were all kind of trying
No,
to share our
I'm going to
own.
be honest. I'm going to say no, only because I would always see them and always go, nice, but I just file them away because, look, that's the competition.
It
and
is.
It's healthy.
It is.
But I go, man, that's a nice photo. And then I go,
That's a nice
block it out.
There you go.
Block it out.
It's
man.
so good, you got to block it out.
That's it. I'm just
I
like, you know
appreciate
what?
that.
That's how we do.
That's
I'm
a
like,
very,
I can't,
that
you
is
know,
a fair answer.
You acknowledge, but you go, nah, junkie, baby. We right here.
It's like when you put Abby over in the UK puts video packages together for you. I'm just like, that's cool. I'm never gonna watch it again though.
That's
and like
it.
that's
I
the best.
get it.
And honestly, that's like the best compliment you can
That's
get.
it, man. You go, I'm out.
It's that like I'll see his video package. I'm like, wow, this makes me like angry because it's so good. So that's like the
So
best.
you get it. You
that's
see
the
what I'm
best
saying? Just like,
compliment you could
no, I'm out.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
focusing on that at all.
100%.
But I will not try to pretend like she is not incredibly skilled and just an incredibly nice person, man. She is. So, brother, I appreciate you slipping down here. We got to go
man.
catch up with Oscar because I lied to him and told him we were done and that I'd go meet him for a drink afterwards. So let's go do that. And, yeah, you're going to be here for the next 3.5 weeks. Maybe we'll do this once or twice more along the way.
I'm down, man. Anytime we can, the worlds can collide. I'm in.
The worlds can collide. Much respect, brother. For everybody else, thanks for listening.